The Renters' Rights Act is now in effect. If you're a tenant in England, this changes everything. You've probably already seen the headlines. Scary predictions, landlords selling up, the rental market about to collapse. I've done my research, and between my own experience renting in London and the clients I work with every day, here's what I can tell you. Some of it is real, some of it is just noise. In this video, I'm covering the 5 changes that actually matter to you as a renter. Starting with the biggest shift of all, the end of the fixed-term lease. England, and London especially, has always had a reputation for rigid 12-month leases. If you break one early, you're still responsible for the remaining rent, so you are trapped in a flat that you might desperately want to leave. Thousands of tenants have been stuck in this exact situation, but that changes now. All tenancy agreements in England are now rolling contracts, with no fixed end date. So as a tenant, you can leave at any point with 2 months' notice. And if you sign your lease before the Act came into effect on 1st of May, it's already been automatically converted to a rolling contract. This new rule has huge upsides. If you have a difficult landlord, you're no longer trapped. If you want to move in with a partner or a friend sooner than expected, you can. This gives you a lot of flexibility to work around the unpredictability that life throws at you. However, this could backfire. With no guaranteed 12 months of rent, landlords take on more risk. And risk for them has a cost for us. Expect vetting to get stricter. If you're applying for a flat right now, you might find the bar is higher than it used to be. So how can you stay ahead? First, have a strong application ready, a sort of a tenant CV. Employment status, income, references from previous landlords, anything that proves your stability. Second, landlords will look for signs that you intend to stay. And a cover letter that makes that case explicitly makes a real difference. The irony of this law is that the tenants who benefit most are the ones who are able to prove that they don't need the flexibility. And if you're navigating the London rental market right now and need some support, that's exactly what I do. Whether that's finding the right place or make your application stand out, there's a link below to book a free call. We'll talk about your situation and see if I'm the right person to help. Now that you know that you're not trapped once you move in, let's talk about the moment you apply. The biggest barrier to a good deal in London has always been bidding wars, being told that someone else will pay more, often right at the last minute. Pillar 2 makes it illegal for landlords and agents to encourage or accept offers over the asking price. This is a huge improvement, especially in London where it happens constantly. I hate this mentality of trying to squeeze as much money as possible from tenants. Landlords will justify it with weak excuses like this. Oh, we were looking at a range for this property, we advertised at the lowest end of the range, but it's gotten a lot of interest and we think it's gonna go for more. What? It gives tenants false hopes, it wastes our time because we go and see properties that we think are in our price range when they're not, and overall, it creates a lot of uncertainty and anxiety for renters. A good professional landlord should know the market, know their costs, and name a fair price. And if they get many applicants, they are welcome to pick the strongest, but at the asking price. Now, this change could backfire for tenants. If landlords know that the asking price is the final price, they will be keen to put it as high as possible to make up for the lost potential bidding war. The direct result for tenants could be an increase in prices or what I'd call social bidding. When landlords can't take more money, they just pick the most impressive applicant instead. I read some comments from people who did not have the strongest profile, for example student, and offering more than the asking price was their only hope at getting a place. So not having this tool might make it harder for some. But it doesn't mean that you won't be able to rent a flat if you don't have a 6-figure salary. When I first started to rent in London, my profile was far from ideal, but I never once entered the bidding war. Even with no credit history, no UK track record, and as an international student. There are smarter ways to stand out that still work under the new law. I actually made a whole video on how to write the strongest application possible. I share my best tips to stand out to a landlord without paying more. I'll link it here. So I said that there are smarter ways to stand out, and they are. But I want to be honest with you, one of my favorite strategies that I personally used is now banned as well. If your profile wasn't strong, paying several months rent up front was a way to reassure a landlord. It works, I used it, Pillar 3 makes it illegal too. It was common practice, at least in London, to pay 6 months upfront for tenants that had a non-standard profile, for example students and expats. Agents are now forbidden to ask for more than 1 month's rent upfront. The upside is that it will stop abusive practices that some agents had, where they would ask for huge upfront payments, often totaling more than 10 grand. But this also removes a bargaining chip that expats could use. It will make it more difficult for a specific segment of tenants to be accepted, especially the ones who don't have a renting history in the UK. But I have two workarounds. First, if that's available to you, provide proof of funds. If you have 6 months worth of rent saved in a savings account, it shows financial stability without requiring the landlord to hold the funds. Of course, it's not as valuable to them as having the money in their own account, but it can still make a difference compared to other applicants. Second option, get a professional guarantor service. This will lower the risk for landlords, but it comes at a cost for you. Because it works like insurance, you pay a monthly fee to be covered. This pillar was designed to protect tenants like expats and international students. The irony is that it removes one of the few tools they had to get accepted in the first place. Okay, so once you're in your new rental, how do you stay there? That's what Pillar 4 is all about. Before May 1st, your landlord could end your tenancy at any point without giving any reason. This was known as the dreaded Section 21. Now that this is banned, landlords cannot evict you without a good reason. That's a win because some landlords use the threat of Section 21 as a way to get away with dodgy behaviors, for example, not maintaining a property. They would tell the tenant that if they were not happy, they would be asked to leave and they would be replaced straight away. This change will limit this type of abusive behavior. From now on, landlords can only evict through Section 8. Section 8 states that a landlord can evict a tenant if there are some serious issues like antisocial behaviors or late rent payments, or if they want to sell the property or live in it, themselves or their family. The risk is that we might see an increase in fake sales. Landlords would pretend to sell to get the tenant out only to relist it shortly after. However, the law says that they're not allowed to relist it within 12 months of the eviction. Following up on the property to confirm that it is indeed put up for sale is worth doing. So this is a complete shift in the rental market. Before, the tenants took all the risk. They were locked in a lease for many months while still at risk of being evicted for no reason. Whereas now the tenant has total flexibility on when to leave without fearing abusive eviction on 2 months' notice. But while the law is very clear on evictions, it's far more uncertain when it comes to pets. Even though the Act gives you the right to request a pet, it's not the automatic yes that many people think it is. And that gap is bigger than most people realize. The new Act says that landlords cannot unreasonably refuse a pet and must reply within 28 days of a request. Now, this part of the Act is a bit blurry because what does unreasonable mean? Who gets to decide? That ambiguity still gives landlords room to decline requests as much as they did before. And they might hide behind the building head lease. It means that if the flat is in a building that is not pet-friendly, they have the right to decline your request. It's still worth asking for a copy of the head lease to see if it actually applies. You could also offer to take pet liability insurance that will cover any damage to the property. If you're feeling nervous about all these changes, you're not alone. The UK media is full of market collapse headlines. But to get a glimpse of our future, we just need to look at our neighbors like France or Germany. They've had these exact tenant protections for years, and it hasn't led to the disaster people are predicting. Here is what we can learn from them. There is a lot of fear-mongering right now. People say these changes are absolutely terrible for tenants and landlords and that things are only going to get worse. I'm not denying that we might see big shifts in the way things are handled. Some situations will present new challenges, absolutely. And this is one of the biggest legislative change ever seen in this country regarding the rental market. So there's a lot of uncertainty about how things will look like. I'm genuinely curious to see how it will evolve within the next 6 to 12 months. But stricter rules for landlords are not necessarily the end of the world. France and Germany have had much stricter protections in place for decades. Private investors didn't disappear, the rental market didn't collapse. Of course, we have to factor in other laws and the culture of each country. But not everything has to be doom and gloom. The changes are here, whether we like it or not. So what if we approach this with curiosity, open to seeing how things evolved and hopeful that it might be a step in the right direction? And if you want to be better prepared than most, the government has released an official recap of all the main changes and what they mean for tenants. Landlords are legally required to share it with you, so keep an eye out. But if you want to read it now, I'll link it below. And if you want to know what to watch out for before you sign anything, click here to see my video on the biggest red flags in rental listings.